all your school rugby, all in one place. This is Next Gen 15.
Alright guys, welcome to Next Gen 15, and in today's video, as promised, we'll be going through a Junior Springbok report card based on the recent performances in the Under-20 International Series. So if you are new to our channel, please don't forget to click that subscribe button as well as bell notification, and as soon as new videos are released, you'll be the first to know. But before we continue, if you are a young aspiring rugby player, clubs are contacting us all the time from Europe, from Asia, from the Americas, and they're looking for high quality talent. Just sign up with our talent hub. Simply click the register button on our website, click on athlete sign up, and then choose your package, and we'll get back to you. Connect with sports industry insiders, agents, clubs, and join our online community. So just head over to nextgen15.com. That's www.nextgenxv.com. So let's continue with the video. So we're going to do everything in alphabetical order. First up, ANDRE-HUGO the hooker from Western Province in Grey College, was his alma mater. Fantastic tournament, I thought. He's basically made the number 2 jersey zone at junior level, in my opinion. Standout performances for Marties earlier this year. He's just developing like a rocket ship, and he's got the genetics, obviously. Father Andre is one of the all-time great Springboks. I thought he had an amazing tournament. That's my personal opinion. I think he's it's a meteoric rise in a sense. I really rated him at school. I talked about him a lot at school, but I still think I undersold it. I never thought like his development would go this quickly. I do believe that ANDRE-HUGO could become a senior international player in 3 to 5 years. The development is just crazy. This guy's on top of the world right now, and I would rank him the highest possible rank, but there was just something about the front row communication or something. The scrums weren't going great. But besides that, I thought he had a great tournament, so I'll give him an A for this tournament. Moving on, Blaine Golden. You guys might remember him when he was a schoolboy Glenwood, an absolute tank. This series wasn't a great one for our props, if we're honest. I mean, we must remember though that we are facing some of the toughest scrummages in the world. I mean, the Georgians and the Argentinians are like renowned for that. But I think what the coaching staff was probably hoping for was when they made switches was that it would make a considerable difference, and there might be a bit of a momentum shift, so to speak. I just think that Blaine is very talented. I think he's definitely got potential, but I don't think he covered himself in glory in this tournament. Unfortunately, not many of the props did. I think he can do better. I think he can recognize he will do better, and I think he'll come out of this better, because the whole thing is about having a learning experience, right? That's why these kids are here. I mean, they're still kids, guys. They're under 20s. They're yet to learn. So I'm going to give Blaine a C for this tournament. I think he's a lot better than this, and I think, like I say, I think he'll come out of this a lot stronger. He's just got too much potential for it to go any other way. And I know he's highly rated within his franchise or union. So, a bit more work in terms of technique and a bit more time. Sometimes the props develop a bit later than other positions, But I don't want to take anything away from his ability, but just in this particular tournament, I think a C is a fair rating, to be honest. Next up, Bobby Alexander. Bobby's spoken about a lot as well. Just so much positive energy that he brings to the field. I thought he had a very good tournament. The last match was when he showed us the real Bobby Alexander. To me, he was the man of the match in the last game. I thought he was outstanding. Obviously, an injury, curtailed his, his tournament a bit. But I think, in the matches that he did play, I would say that he didn't play to 100% of his full potential. But in the last game, we saw, like I say, we saw the real Bobby Alexander, and I think Bobby's definitely got a massive future in this game. I personally really, really rate this guy, and I think the dynamic he brings to the team in general is very underrated, and I think his leadership ability is very underrated. I think he's going to go far in the game as well, but for this specific tournament, I'm going to go ahead and I'll give him a B+. I think if he was consistent in the tournament and he played every game like he did the last game, A+. But the problem was the conditions, right? The conditions weren't great for the type of rugby that suits Bobby. but we're going to be playing in the Northern Hemisphere in the future, in terms of our franchise system. So he's going to have to learn to play in these horrible conditions, and I think it's just going to make him a better player. Moving on, CANAN MOODIE, I think one of the standouts, guys. I think absolutely outstanding, lethal finisher. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't know if I'd have put his name down as one of my original selections in terms of the SA Under-20 squad. I'm definitely for next year. As far as I know, he's under 19, but this year I'm not sure that I would have penned him in myself personally. Maybe a lot of that's got to do with the fact that I didn't get to see a lot of him at Ball and Ludpo, obviously due to the situation, let's call it that, COOF. But what a tournament he had. Really, I mean, he made his stock go through the roof in this tournament, in my opinion. One of the standout players, unlucky to be injured, but deserving of an A+. I think he had a really good tournament, and he can be very proud of his performances. Moving on, Corne Valbach. There was so much quality in the tight head department in terms of last year's grade 12 year. I mean, you talk in Phil Masango, you talk in Heiko Pullman, Tilman Niva, Seb Lombard. So it could have gone with any of these players, but the coaching staff went with Corne. Some people that I've spoken to that are insiders just say this guy's incredibly rated within the South African systems. There are a lot of people that are convinced it's only a matter of time before he gets his Springbok colours. Based on this tournament, I know that we didn't have front foot ball a lot because of our forward pack. But yeah, I rate him. I think he's a hell of a player. He went over and beyond in terms of my expectations for him. Not that I didn't have high expectations for him, but I knew it was going to be a tough encounter against Argentina and Georgia. Like I say, these guys are renowned for their scrumming. They got some big boys, but Corne held his own. I think, in my opinion, he was the best of the props in this tournament. Not even close. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give him a B+. I think he's going to be a key player for the Junior Springboks next year. Absolutely key to that front row battle. And he's just oozing potential. I can't wait to see what he does. Up next, MKHIZE. Kerwin, you know that we rate him very highly on this channel. We think he's got everything it takes to be world class in this game. I think this tournament, unfortunately, it didn't go his way. Obviously, the conditions weren't right for him. And then obviously in the last game as well, he wasn't really given an opportunity. He was only given a couple of minutes or something like that towards the end of the game when it was already basically closed out. And, those conditions suit him. But again, these guys have got to get used to playing in terrible conditions. I mean, if you're going to go play in Ireland in winter, in terms of the Rainbow Cup or whatever they're calling it now, you're going to have to get used to those conditions. So I think another guy that's going to grow from this. But I think wait till next year. I think him and CANAN MOODIE are likely to be the starting wings. And there's going to be some real damage caused over there. But in terms of this tournament, I have to give him a C+, because I did see some moments in terms of what he can do. I just don't think the tactics or the conditions suited his style of play. But he's going to have to fit within Bafana's system. Bafana is a coach, he determines the tactics. But I think next year, if there is, God willing, an under-20 tournament internationally, he's going to make his name there. I'm still very confident Kerwin's going to become a world-class player. Next up, DALVON Blood. This is another guy that I can say, I didn't give him enough respect at school level. In his 2019 year, I thought he was great, but look, there was a lot of other players as well. I think in 2020, he would have had a standout. He is under 20 this year, so we won't see him next year. But he went way beyond my expectations. I think he was definitely one of the better outside backs of this tournament. Even in the difficult conditions, he still made things happen. I think that if the conditions were better, I think he would have scored a lot more tries. But he's definitely a player with potential. You can see exactly why the coach and staff rate him so highly. I'll go ahead and I'll give him a B+ for this tournament. And I think if the conditions were better, no doubt he could have got a higher score as well. Next up, Dylan Deleu, another player that that has definitely got a lot of potential. He's got the height, he's got the weight, he's got the physicality. He's got all the physical requirements, but there was just something missing in this tournament. He's another guy that, like, when he was given his opportunity, he didn't take it with both hands, I'm afraid. And, I still think this guy, he's still a very talented player. That you can't just lose that talent overnight. So I'm not saying that he's a bad player. I'm just saying in the context of this tournament, he wasn't great. And that's why I'm going to have to go ahead and give him a C. And, I hope the coaching staff works with him, because he's got all the physical qualities to go to the very top of the game. There's just something missing, and I'm not an expert, so I can't really say what's missing, but there's something missing from his game. Whether it's motivation, whether it's something inside his head, or whether he's going through some personal problems, I don't know what it is, but he just wasn't competing on the field, and I think he's better than that. So hence my score of a C. Next up, Ethan James. Ethan's played centre at school. He was a fantastic centre. I think very unlucky not to make SS schools in his grade 11 year. Definitely a player that oozes potential. I was very impressed by Ethan on the wing. I was very impressed with him. Yes, this guy's a mongrel. Seriously, he just doesn't stop. He chases every ball with absolute intent. He tackles hard. He goes in for the kill. I mean, he's a killer. He's just got that killer instinct, in my opinion. I do see him playing centre next year, and I could just imagine a combination of him, MOODIE, and MKHIZE together. Sasha, the fly half, MAMBO at centre. This is just a ridiculous backline potentially next year. And, I'm glad that Bafana made him part of this group as well, because I think him being part of the dynamic was vitally important for his development. He belongs on that field. I think a great selection, great player, and can't wait to see what he does. I'm going to have to give him a B, and that's just because there was a couple of things, just a few little things, in terms of his positioning, in terms of his handling. Not major things, but I think things that can be improved upon. Also, maybe finishing a bit. But I think all of this is due to the fact that he's played the majority of his rugby as a centre. So he was playing out of position, essentially. But I think genius selection bringing him into the team, because, he's going to form a part of that spine for next year's Under-20 championship. And I think next year's team has definitely got the potential to win the tournament, especially with Bafana as the coach. Up next, George Cronje. What a leader. You don't want to count your chickens, so to speak, but who knows? Maybe future Springbok captain over here. We have to address it. I mean, there was another commentator that had some negative things to say about him, Jan Hendrik and ANDRE-HUGO. I disagree with the guy. I personally think that it was coming from both sides. And I think no side really covered themselves in glory. But at the same time, these are young guys, and they play with their heart on the sleeve and play with a lot of passion. But personally, I think a lot of the South African guys were restrained compared to how the Argentinians were. That's maybe I was watching a different game. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But I think George is an absolutely inspiring leader. I think he's the reason why we won that game against Argentina. It was a lot closer than it seemed, guys. I think Argentina could have taken that game away from us at any moment, and I think George's leadership really stood out. I think his troops would follow him into hell, and that's why I think really do believe that he has got it within him to be a future Springbok captain. And I thought he was outstanding in this tournament, highly rate him, and that's why I give him an A for this tournament. Up next, Henko van Wyk. This guy's just incredible. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've seen a centre with this much talent. I spoke about him back in 2019, and just what a special player I thought he was. Just his running lines, his defence. Even the ability to compete on the ground. Personally, I named him in our man of the series. I just think he was consistently good. He's mature way beyond his years, Henko. To me, without doubt, in terms of the under-20 scene, he has to be the premier outside centre, not only in South Africa but on the planet. It'll be an absolute travesty if he doesn't become a Springbok. I just don't think we've seen a player like this in terms of South African rugby. You know, we've had some great centres, don't get me wrong. We've had Jean de Villiers, we've had Jacques Fourie, Donny Gerber, all of those guys. I mean, everyone's had their outstanding qualities, but I've just never seen somebody with Henko-specific qualities. I mean, his spatial awareness is out of this world. I don't know how he finds the gaps that he finds, and that's why for me it's very, very easy to just say that's an A+. He's an A+ player, A+ character. He's going to become world class if he continues with his development. He's just such an exciting talent. He's going to go all the way. I think if he doesn't go all the way, it's going to be a tragedy on the same level as Khafi de Toy, who I thought would really become world class based on his early talent. But I think Henko puts him to shame. Even honestly, I just highly rate this guy. I rate him enough to make one video of him. I'm not going to make 10 videos of him like other people. Doesn't mean I don't rate him. I'd rate him highly. It's just it's going to basically be commentary after specific games and specific tournaments. But yeah, I mean, outstanding talent, A+ all the way. Next up, Izon Esterhuizen. Izon is an absolute monster of a man. Not someone you'd want to meet down a dark alley. Almost a carbon copy of Duan Vermeulen. You know, he's got that size, he's got that athletic ability, likes to get in his opponent's face. Interestingly enough, I thought the conditions would actually quite suit someone like this. You know, a tighter game, more physical game, more forward-orientated game. I think he did do well, but I think he's got a lot more potential than he showed in this tournament, and that's why I'm going to give him a B. I definitely think that he is an A-style player, just that in this specific tournament, he was good, don't get me wrong, he was above average, but to me, nothing exceptional. But I do think he has it within him to become an exceptional player. Even at school level, you saw that. Very special player at school level, highly rated at Monazin. You know, this is a school that produces extremely, extremely strong men. Willem Alberts, for example, went there, and you know, I think Izon will develop, but I think we'll start to see him developing properly. Like, he'll become an absolute monster like Willem Alberts, probably in his mid-20s or so. I just think he needs a few more years of development. That's just my personal opinion. You know, remember, I'm just some guy on YouTube, so don't take everything as gospel. Next up, JACQUES. I think Jacques had a decent tournament. I think we found ourselves confronted by a brutal fact, that the number 2 jersey at this stage belongs to ANDRE-HUGO, and that perhaps, I've spoken about it in the past, guys. I mean, if you look at previous videos in the past, I did speak about Jacques as a number 6, and I think it was a stroke of genius by Bafana selecting him as a number 6. I think that's where his future is. I think he's an absolute mongrel. He'll go crazy on the ground, very physical. He's got the pace. I just think in terms of the size, it's just a different kettle of fish of when you get out of school. And you know, I think Jacques definitely his future is going to be at number 6. So he played number 2 in this tournament. I wouldn't say he was exceptional, but he was decent. You know, he played with a lot of heart. But as soon as he got in that number 6 jumper, he just looked like he belonged. So in terms of this tournament, I give Jacques a B. And I think if he continues as a number 6, like I believe he should, I think we're going to see a very, very exciting future for him. Next up, Jan-Hendrik Wessels. It's a confusing one. He's a very polarizing figure at the moment. I still think Jan-Hendrik has got all the athletic ability and all the talent in the world to go really far in this game. But I have to agree with the detractors. There's just something going on with the scrumming. It's a real back and forth. It's weird because the opposition can be dominant for 15-20 minutes, and then next thing Jan-Hendrik comes back and dominates back. Ball carrying is still there. The talent is still there. I don't think the problem is necessarily Jan-Hendrik alone, guys. I think the problem might be in terms of the scrum laws in junior rugby. It's not doing us any favours. And I think it's something that needs to be re-looked at. Was he the worst player of the tournament? I don't think so. But Jan Hendrik is someone that we have to hold to a far higher standard than any other player because of his natural God-given talent, and therefore I'll give him a C for this tournament. I think he's a lot better than this, but I think if you will allow it, this will be a learning experience. He can go back to the drawing board and develop himself. I don't think he's a hooker. I don't think he's a loose forward. I don't think he's a lock. I think he's a prop, and I think they need to send him to club rugby, and he needs to be scrumming against 35 to 40-year-old men, whatever it takes. You know, those guys that have got those techniques down. Sometimes a guy that stinks of brandy while you're scrumming against him. Just go back to basics. Like, you know, if you take a look at the Rocky movies, you know, when he's training in the fancy gyms, everything goes to shit. Then he goes and he starts training in the mountains, you know, in the ghettos, all the rest of that type of stuff. And I think Jan Hendrik needs to go back to the ghetto, for want of a better word. And, you know, I played club rugby in South Africa. It can be a ghetto. It's hardcore rugby, and I think that's where he's going to develop nicely. Still got all the attributes to become a world-class player. And, you know, from what I understand, what the guys say about him as a character, I think it'll come. It'll come with time. I still haven't given up hope on him becoming the player that he should become. Next up, Jordan Hendrikse. I mean, Jordan's another one, just had a meteoric rise. I mean, at school level, I think he was a talented player, but had you asked me, you know, if he would develop this quickly after school, I don't think I would have thought so. But he's taken every opportunity that he's had with both hands and has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, right now he's looking like someone that could become a world-class fly-off. And it's exceptional to see, because you could just imagine how proud the Hendrikse family would be, and the potential of a Jaden Hendrikse, Jordan Hendrikse halfback pairing for the Springboks. And as of now, it's not outside the realm of possibility. So very exciting times ahead for him. And he just seems to be having fun. He's just enjoying every moment, and he should be. He's playing some great rugby, and in this tournament, one of the standouts for me, and I'll give him an A+. I think he was definitely one of the best players of this tournament. Next up, MAMBO MKHIZE. I would have loved to have seen more of him in this tournament. I still think that him and Henko van Wyk could become even a better centre pairing than Jean de Villiers and Jacques Fourie were. I just think his offloading and Henko's running lines could just be something extraordinary. But the weather conditions did not suit Mambo's game at all. You saw moments of brilliance. You saw flashes of the player that he could become. But the conditions did him absolutely no favours. And unfortunately, I have to judge on what I saw and not on his potential. If I judged on his potential, he's an A+ player every day. But in terms of this tournament, Mambo, and I hate to do it because I rate him so highly, I mean, I have to give him a C. But again, like, don't read too much into that. He's going to be one of the leaders in next year's tournament, and like I said, like, I really do believe that him and Henko can become a Springbok combination like we've never seen before. When the conditions are right and Mambo's playing with confidence, there is no better offloader in terms of the youth rugby scene. His running lines are great as well. Henko will score tries for fun if he's combined with Mambo. Mambo is definitely a massive talent, and but I'm not rating on talent. I have to rate with what I saw with my own eyes. And again, maybe I saw something different to you guys. You can let me know in the comment section down below. Next up, Nico Steyn. What a fantastic thing to see Nico in this tournament, guys. I mean, you must remember that he was part of the national squad and then he got let go because of the thing I can't say, and then he got called back to the camp, and then ended up scoring a try on his debut. I mean, the old man must be extremely proud. I know that he's been supportive of Nico's career from since Nico was very young. He's always believed in his kid and believed he could go all the way, and to be able to watch your son score a try on his South African debut, because he never got a chance to play SA schools, must have just been fantastic. It's going to be very interesting with him and Bradley Davids competing for the jersey next year. Thank goodness I don't have to make that selection. But Nico was our MVP last year. We've rated him for a long time. In terms of this tournament, a very solid B. Again, the conditions weren't the best, which meant there was a few handling errors and a few few mishaps in terms of the tactical kicking and all the rest of it. But by no means does that take away from the guy's natural talent. Again, this is just based on the tournament, and definitely going to form a vital part of next year's squad. Next up, Nolan Pienaar. I would say one of the better props in terms of the tournament. Scrummed very hard. Didn't get a lot of opportunity. I mean, he wasn't necessarily challenged in his, in his opening game. But you still feel that, there's a plan with him. And, he went to Menlo. So it's not exactly like he went to an absolute powerhouse in terms of a rugby school. So to come through, it just goes to show you how hard he's had to work. And, he's got real grunt. He's got a lot of power. So the basics are there. And I really think that he will be quite suited to Northern Hemisphere conditions in the future. Highly rated within the coaching structures in South African rugby. In terms of this tournament, I give him a solid B as well. I think it could have been higher. But unfortunately, the front row in general, in terms of scrumming, didn't cover themselves in glory. And of course, that's the main job of these guys, is to scrum. I for one can't wait to see how he develops in the future. Up next, REINHARD LUDWIG, another under-19 player. I don't know, guys. I was extremely impressed by this guy. Extremely impressed. The last time I saw an under-19 perform like as an under-20 level as a lock was Emil van Heerden. He stamped his authority on the game and showed that he belonged. REINHARD he's really something special, guys. Exceptional player. He's just so consistent. He really makes a mistake. Someone that you can really rely on. It's hard to put everything into words, because there's nothing that he does that makes stands out and is like, wow, that's amazing. Like a wing scores tries, etc. You've got to look at these guys, like the things that they do on the field, the support play, the defense. It's not a glorious position being in the tight five. But to me, he was one of the top players in the tournament, and I think he's going to be exceptionally important next year for the junior Springboks. He's going to be one of the leaders in the team. This tournament, he impressed me. He blew me away. I don't have enough words to describe how well I think this guy played and what a great future I think he has in the game. Easy for me. It's an A+. I think REINHARD's going to go so far. Such a special talent. Next up, Reinhard Mouton. A guy that, a lot of us rate highly. I think, one of the premier fetchers in his age group. I think no doubt would have been part of the SA Schools mix last year. But in terms of this tournament specifically, it just wasn't there, guys. It just wasn't for him. Didn't get a lot of chance to showcase his ability. Again, the conditions were tough. He's a Moners boy. They used to play it on those tough Krugersdorp fields, dry weather, all the rest of it. So not easy for him, but I think he will develop and he'll learn from it. He's too good to ignore. Definitely be part of the squad next year, and I think he'll definitely showcase his ability then. But in terms of this tournament specifically, I'm afraid I have to give him a C. And I don't think he'd disagree. I think he's a player that demands a lot from himself. So I think we'll see a different type of player rise from this, and he'll dust himself off. And I still think great player. Up next, Ronald Roots. In terms of what he did on the field, I think he had a decent tournament. Again, it's very hard with the tight five. I mean, they don't exactly do things that really stand out in the game. I mean, if you think about it, they do the hard work. But what I liked about him and what I predicted that would happen in terms of the tournament is that he came on and he really added some steel to the game. He slowed it down. He challenged the guys physically. Definitely an enforcer role. So you could sort of see that he would complement a style very similar to sort of an Eben Etzebeth type player, where he goes in and he's an enforcer. That's why pairing him with someone like Ludwig would be very attractive, for example. But in terms of this tournament, I would give him a solid B. I think good. I'll say slightly above average. But yeah, let's see how he develops in the future. I still think exciting player. Next up, MNGOMEZULU, another guy that we rate extremely highly. So it's a tough one, isn't it, guys? I mean, the conditions in the first game that he played was definitely not suited for him. But I still think, the thing is, I'll call it from a different side, right? I think the thing with these sort of games is that the difference between looking bad and looking like a genius is just inches. Sasha was doing some things like kicking for the corners and all the rest of that, where sometimes it just didn't work out by inches, you know what I mean? But I'm glad he's doing it, and I'm glad Bafana is letting him do it, because this is going to help him develop as a player. I thought the first game he wasn't great. I mean, let's be honest, but it was tough. I mean, you must remember, this guy hasn't played any rugby last year, and then he comes and he plays for South Africa under 20. I mean, no pressure, and then he plays in those sort of conditions. It just can't be easy, you know what I mean? And I think in the last game, I think he did well. I really liked him in the last game. Still think that boot is magnificent. His kicking ability is great. But I think you would expect better from himself. He has to hold himself to a high level, because he should become a world-class fly-off one day. He recognizes this. We recognize this. But in terms of this tournament, we give him a solid B. I think the last game was definitely a game where he showcased his ability. Again, it's just a couple of inches here and a couple of inches there, and it's a confidence thing, because if you do kick for the corner, you do that cross kick and it lands a couple of times, it just seems the momentum seems to carry on, right? So I think he's been well coached, and I think Bafana is definitely going to be the guy that's going to help him develop immensely. Next up, we have Sibo Shongwe. I think any other teams, Sibo would have showcased his ability, which is a solid scrummager, maybe not spectacular, but in terms of the loose play, in terms of his mobility, in terms of what he brings to the pack, making it, the whole thing of speed kills, it just wasn't going to work against, Argentina and Georgia necessarily, guys. They're tough customers, and when he was scrumming, we have to be honest, it didn't work out the best for him. And this is another player that demands a lot of himself, and I think in terms of this tournament, it's just fair to say it was a C. I don't think he covered himself in glory, and I think he's another player that definitely would expect better from himself. And I think, I know I'm repeating myself, but I think he'll take stock from this, and he'll learn from this. He's just a different type of prop, and I think if we were playing against some European teams, for example, it would have been a completely different dynamic. But teams that completely focus on forward domination, it's going to be a tough ask. Then we have Simon Miller, and what a guy, what a player. I thought great tournament. I thought him and Reinhard Ludwig were just a beautiful lock combination, guys. I just think they complement each other so well. Although I still feel that Simon's his preferred position should be at number 7. I think he could become the heir apparent to Pieter-Steph du Toit. I think his work rate, his work rate, his ability in the loose, the physical side, his athleticism, all of that, it's just a complete package. And like I said, I really do believe heir apparent to Pieter-Steph du Toit. I'll go ahead and I'll give him an A. I think he had a very good tournament, and I think this is just going to carry on for the foreseeable future, where we see him develop very nicely. Then we have NINGIZA. First game that I saw with him against Argentina, virtually anonymous, and I think what happened was that he was overawed by the experience. I think that the Argentinian loose forwards, in terms of their size in those conditions, were just brutal, and I think it was a hard rugby lesson for him. However, his next 2 games, he showed his ability, and he showed why I believed he should have been in the SA Schools team last year. And he was exceptional. In the second last game, to me, he was easily man of the match. And the player that I saw in that first game compared to the player in the second and third game, it was just chalk and cheese. Sia has got so much potential. It's scary. And he's under 19. So he's going to be a key part of that dynamic next year. And he's going to be so key to our chance to take home the under-20 tournament world championship. Like we should have for many years. I think top players like him are going to be the difference between us bringing home the trophy or suffering another third place finish. I'll give him an A for this tournament. I thought he was outstanding. If that first game he could have been more dominant physically, it would have been an easy A+. So up next we have Sasko Ndlovu. You guys might remember him as a Northwood Knight, old boy, fantastic player at school level. I think him, like Sia in the first game, was a bit dominated physically. He still showed moments of brilliance. He's definitely an exciting and dynamic player, guys. I think the conditions just have to suit him, and I think he has to improve his physicality. If he doesn't improve his physicality, he could have a few problems in the pros, because that's what the guys targeted. They literally targeted him physically, and him and Sia definitely struggled with that. Although Sia had an opportunity to adapt his game and grow in confidence, being given a further 2 chances, Sasko didn't get that same opportunity. I thought he could have definitely done better. He's a better player than we saw here. So I'm going to give him a B- for this tournament. Up next, we have Tyler Box. Very exciting and dynamic centre. Someone would say a classic number 12 in terms of his defensive ability. You definitely see a lot of Peter Muller in him, for example, a bit of Jaapie Mulder, that physicality, that strong tackling. But I think the one area where he might need to work on a bit is just his distribution. I think he's got an opportunity with an outside centre partner in Henko van Wyk, especially if they stay at the lines together in the long term, to really, really help Henko in terms of his finishing and all the rest of it. In terms of this tournament, I thought he was very good. Probably not spectacular, but he's definitely on the right path, developing very nicely. Showing that he's just not a one-trick pony, and that he's just more than a schoolboy prodigy. I'll give him a very solid B in this tournament. Probably, in fairness, should have given him a B+. Next up, we have KIAN MEADON. Now, KIAN was called up late to the squad, and the thing is, KIAN's never played as a number 15 before. He's a classic fly half, and I thought he did very well as a number 15. You got to think about it, guys. Playing out of position. I mean, I know a lot of people might think there's not a big difference between 10 and 15, but during your first game in quite a while, and then you played out of position, and it's for the South African under-20 team. That's a lot of pressure to play under. I thought KIAN handled himself very well considering the circumstances. Definitely one of the most promising schoolboy flowers around in the 2019 year. Could have possibly been given a bit more opportunity, maybe a run on as a flower in his preferred position. But I think the coaching staff's mentality was looking towards next year in the tournament. But, he's still got that excellent boot. He's still got that athletic ability, still got those running lines. So he definitely hasn't lost his touch, so to speak. In terms of this tournament, very, very solid B+. I think a bit more opportunity, played in position, probably an A. Next up, Kieran Horn. What a tournament. This guy was a centre, played as a fullback, and just looked like an absolute natural. I think he's definitely someone that's got the potential to make the number 15 jersey his own in the future. Another player that's currently at the Lions. Dynamic player, very exciting. Him and Tyler were excellent a centre pairing at school level. And it's great to see that he's grown into a player of this potential. I definitely didn't give him enough respect at school. Same as KIAN, didn't give him enough respect at school level. And in terms of this tournament, I thought KIAN was one of the outstanding players. A saving grace in terms of the outside back position, fullback, where we looked a bit short. He gets an A in my book. Final player that we'll be looking at, Bradley Davids. I thought it was a very interesting call to bring him on and give him a start as well. Very early on in the game, it really looked like that his nerves got the best of him, made a couple of mistakes, but then had a very solid game. And then when he came on as a replacement in his next game, I just saw a very special player, and then I gained an understanding of why he's so highly rated. That boot, that distribution, the pace, complete package. Him and Nico Steyn are going to have an absolutely epic battle next year for that number 9 jersey, and I can't wait to see it, because I think they'll bring out the best in each other. This tournament, Bradley Davids, to me, gets a B, a very solid B. Then finally, I have to grade the coach. I think it's only fair. So, I thought Bafana was going to be a breath of fresh air, and I think he was. I think he had the balls to make the tough decisions. Moving GOOSEN from number 2 to number 6 was just amazing. I think in terms of that, continue on that subject, I think that he's got an eye of where to play players in specific positions. I think putting KIAN Horn at number 15 was just absolute genius. But I think in terms of missed opportunities, like, I can understand why he chose MEADON as the kicker for the game against Georgia, I believe it was. I can understand why he did that, but at the same time, I think it was a missed opportunity. Personally, I think it should have been Sasha being given the kicking duties, not because he's a better kicker than KIAN, but because we have to be looking at next year, right? And Sasha's more than likely going to be the kicker for next year in the starting fly-off. So I think it would have given him time to grow into it, and I think he would have been far more comfortable in the final game against Argentina with the boot. Not that he wasn't comfortable, but I think he would have been far more settled if he had it in more of a run-on match, like a practice match, so to speak. No disrespect to the Georgians, but let's get real. So I think there's a missed opportunity there. But I think Bafana is the guy that's going to, get rid of this barren run. There have been so many years where shit coaching has let us down, guys. We finished 3rd place, I don't know how many times. I mean, you think about that class with Colby and Jacques Duplessis and Sinatla and Luther Obi and all of those guys together. They should have won that tournament hands down. There's, I think, Andre Pollard's final year, I think that is 2014. I think they should have won it with ease. There's about 3 or 4 teams. I mean, we've won it once, guys. We've won that tournament once. And there's no doubt we got the best youth rugby in the world. I mean, if you just take a look at it, there's just so much talent over here, and it's showing. I mean, the bulk of the guys that won the last World Cup are, they came through under 20 system, so it says something. So we've just needed the coach that could make the right calls and be brave and make the right decisions. And I think this guy, based on what I've seen now, and I don't want to speak too soon, I think he's definitely going to be groomed for high honours. I think there's a Springbok coach over here. Although, you might turn around and say, look, it is Argentina, Uruguay, and Georgia. You must remember the fact is that these kids haven't played rugby for how long? For a very long time. Argentina are no slouches. I think he got a lot right, and I just think that one little thing that he got wrong was perhaps the, not utilising Sasha as a starting kicker. But what I'm also liking, what I'm seeing now, is Rassie Erasmus's influence as a director of rugby, because you can see a lot of the tactics being utilised by the under-20s are being utilised by the seniors. So there's some continuity there. There's some pattern there. If you take a look at footballing dynasties, for example, like Barcelona, Tiki-Taka, whatever it was called, was formed in La Masia, which was the academy system. So the kids were learning to play that from 5-6 years of age all the way until they made their senior debut at Barcelona. They were playing according to a system, and I see that happening now with these under-20s, and I see that in Coach Bafana, and I will happily give him an A, because I think if I was to give him an A+, it's going to obviously be when we finally win a tournament. I think that A+ basically means like the perfect tournament. I don't think he had the perfect tournament, but I think this is a great start, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what junior rugby has in store for us, and Bafana as our head coach. I think it's very exciting times ahead. Okay, so thanks a lot for taking the time to watch this, guys. I know it was a long video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Where do you think I got it right? Where do you think I got it wrong? And give me some content ideas. A couple of you guys have given me some good ideas, but we're very, very like hanging dry in terms of our content, guys. So anything that you can give us would really help. Anyway, have a fantastic week further, and chat soon. Cheers. Bye.